We're live, huh?
Houston, stand by.
Okay, Dr. Jaffe, you are live. Dr. Jaffe, you are live on the internet.
Welcome, everybody, to the annual OPAC Candidate Forum for Havre de Grace City Council. My name is David Jaffe. I'm here on behalf of the Ontario Otsego Positive Action Committee, the neighborhood association from the northern part of Havre de Grace. With me here is my wife, Brenda, who you'll also see on the screen. I will be the moderator. Brenda will be the timekeeper tonight, as has been the case for the past 18 or 19 years. And so we welcome you all. This debate, as those of you know who are hearing it, or this forum, is being broadcast live on the Havre de Grace City website, as well as on the city's YouTube channel, where it will remain available throughout the election for citizen viewing. So if there are others who you would like to pass this information on to who are not available to watch it live tonight, please do. Last year, we had an uncontested election, which made for an interesting format online. This year, we have 7 candidates, so things will be a little bit different. If you're on the OPAC mailing list, you were asked to forward questions ahead of time, and a number of you did. And in fact, we have 74 questions that up to now were sent in by citizens. Here, you can't really see them in here, but it's a lot of questions. Of course, there is some overlap there. Due to the limited time that we have available, we will finish in 2 hours sharp. I, as moderator, will take the liberty of combining questions in order to maximize the number of issues that we can cover. I'll do my best to cover a broad array of issues. I cannot in any way promise to cover all issues that our citizens have sent in, because there were excellent questions, but there are just too many for the time we have allotted. Candidates will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. And then for each question we ask in between, you will have 1 minute to answer each question. You're not required to use the entire time when answering. As always, extra points are awarded for brevity. The quicker we move along, the more varied questions we can address. Brenda will, when she's keeping time, will let you know at the end of your minute with a beep or a ding. Brenda, you want to demonstrate?
Okay.
So that's what you'll hear when your time is up. There won't be any warning, ding. That's the end of the minute. And at that time, please stop talking. You can carry over any remaining thoughts you have with your next question if you like. We're going to use a staggered alphabetical rotation. Our candidates are familiar, but so our viewing audience understands, in order to give everybody an opportunity to answer first and everybody an opportunity to answer last. We're using the alphabetical order of candidates since everybody's Zoom screen's a little different. And we're going to go in sequence, starting with the first alphabetically with the first question, but then the number 2 person in line will be the first one for the second question. The number 3 person in line will be first for the third question, etc. And we'll just go through that alphabetical order and wrap around. The details of the questions that I'm going to ask are generally not vetted. So candidates, please set the record straight as you see fit if you sense any inaccuracies in the questions at all. With that said, we will begin with opening statements. I will be, with the candidates' acquiescence here, I'm going to be referring to everybody by their first name. Part of the charm of Havre de Grace is we are a friendly small town, and most of you I know anyway, and we all refer to one another by our first name. So we're going to do that tonight. So the first opening statement will be Johnny Boker. Johnny, please kick us off. You'll have 2 minutes.
First of all, I want to thank Brenda and Dr. Jaffe for this opportunity tonight. I also like to thank my wife, Wanda, for standing beside me as I campaign to serve in a higher capacity. I am Johnny Boker. Wanda and I purchased a home here 12 years ago. We are embedded into the fabric of Havre de Grace in many ways, from owning a successful business downtown for 6 years to our volunteer service and membership. Before living in Havre de Grace, I served as a communications soldier in the U.S. Army, attaining the rank of first sergeant. I was promoted to sergeant in less than 2 years and have been leading ever since. I served in the Army for a total of 22 years, managing men and women in support of 5 major combat operations, including Panama, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Afghanistan twice, and Iraq. I served as communications chief for frontline Army units in the infantry and the field artillery. Fun fact, I actually served under General Milley as his communications chief in Iraq with the 2nd Brigade 10th Mountain Division in 2004. I currently sit on the city's Water and Sewer Commission, president of the Havre de Grace Alliance, vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, and co-chair of the Gold Star Families Memorial. I am a former chair of the Harford County Commission on Veterans Affairs. I'm a proud member of the Havre de Grace Cat Club since its beginning. I'm a member of the Havre de Grace American Legion, Post 47, and the VFW. My wife and I are also active members of Havre de Grace Twinning Association. I hold a bachelor's and a master's degree in business administration, and I work for the Department of Defense at APG. I'm running for city council because I want to continue to earn the trust and confidence of my fellow citizens through dedicated service. I want to set the conditions for transparency and improve communication between the city, citizens, and improve relationships and outcomes for services such as infrastructure, development, renovation, high-speed internet, and BG&E, just to name a few. I look forward to addressing your questions tonight.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Brown Jacobs, and I am a resident of Havre de Grace for over the past 10 years. I moved to Havre de Grace from Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, as a part of the United States Army 2005 base realignment and closure decision. I was responsible for managing the relocation of my unit, Project Management Battle Command, to Aberdeen Proving Ground. As a strategic planner for my unit, I developed a unit movement tracking process to manage the movement of personnel from New Jersey to Maryland. I conducted new facility inspections with our headquarters lead team at Aberdeen Proving Ground and ensured that all personnel who were moving knew of shopping, grocery, entertainment, and leisure activities to do in Harford County. Overall, my goal was to facilitate an easy move for my personnel, and we did that. I retired from the United States Army in 2011, earning the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. And my husband, Ronald, and I decided to make Havre de Grace our home. Havre de Grace is a beautiful town. It is a quaint town and reminds me a lot of my home in Georgia. Ron and I have one daughter, Joycelyn, who is a freshman at the John Carroll School. I operate 2 businesses. The one I want to talk about most tonight is New Service Trained Employment Program, my nonprofit, where we operate and manage a robotics program at Havre de Grace High School. We've been running this program for the past 3 years with our students, and this year we will have our first Robotic Skills Challenge on 6 May. And we invite you out, the public, to come and view and be a part of that event with our students. See, I'm not running just for me. I'm running for the community, to serve the community, to help the community, and to be a small business advocate. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in Industrial Engineering Technology from Georgia Southern College, and I have a Master of Science degree in System Acquisition Management from the Naval Postgraduate School. Get out and vote on 2 May. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Vicki Jones. I've been a resident of Havre de Grace for 8 years. My family moved to Harford County in 1987 when my dad got stationed at Aberdeen Proving Ground. I'm a graduate of Bel Air High School, and I have a degree in journalism and political science from Howard University and a master's degree from New York University, where I focused on public policy and management. My professional background is in workforce and community development. I also taught for 9 years as an adjunct professor at the City University of New York. I have a younger sister and brother, and am the aunt and godmother to 7 children, ages 26 to 4. I love to write, laugh, and travel. My friends would describe me as driven, forward-thinking, and loyal. Before the pandemic, I was traveling 4 hours each way every day to work in Washington, D.C. The pandemic slowed us all down and allowed me to become more involved in the community, attending local events and supporting the Arts Collective, Opera House, and the Colored School. I've been on my Homeowners Association Board of Directors for 6 years, currently serving as treasurer. I've affected change on the county level as a member of the Community Colleges Foundation Board, the Sheriff's Community Advisory Board, and as a past board member of the ARC of Northern Chesapeake, just to name a few. I'm active with the Harford County NAACP, Moms Demand Action, and was nominated in 2022 as one of Harford County's most beautiful people. And last July, I took a new job working for Harford County Public Schools. I look forward to continuing to nurture county relationships to make a difference in this city that we all call home. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Donna Kasnick. I have been a resident of Havre de Grace for over 14 years. My husband and I moved here in 2009, and I am a lifelong educator. I have worked for Harford County Public Schools for the last 25 years, and I see public service in this realm of serving on the city council as much like serving my students. I want to help Havre de Grace to continue on the path into the future that we've really been on since I've been here. So I have a lot of leadership experience within the school system, within our school buildings, and within organizations within the school system. And I feel like I can translate that into helping to lead the city into, again, a bright future. One of the things I love about Havre de Grace is the diversity. So I want to help continue that and look forward to a future where we can make Havre de Grace grow for everyone. I would also like to see Havre de Grace continue on the path to sustainability that we've been working toward for the last, as long as I can remember, as long as I've been a resident here. I have a lot of experience in the environmental area. Also, I have a lot of postgraduate work in environmental education, which I've led student groups to help solve environmental problems. And I feel like that's something that I can offer to the city of Havre de Grace as well. So thank you for showing up tonight. And thank you for this opportunity to let us all speak our minds.
My name is Dave Martin. I'm a husband, father, grandfather, homeowner, and community volunteer. I married my high school sweetheart, Deborah. We've been married for 44 years. In addition to our son, Christopher, we have a daughter-in-law, Jessica, and 3 grandchildren, Finley, Hayden, Camden, and finally our grandpa, Elsie. I have always been active in my community since the late 70s with scouting, coaching, football, soccer, and baseball. I'm a member of the Maryland Troopers Association and FOP Lodge 76. The Havre de Grace United Methodist Church, Sons of the American Legion Post 47, Joseph L. Davis, and an American Legion rider here in Havre de Grace. I'm on the board of directors of the Sparrows Point and North Point Historical Society. You may ask me what makes me qualified to remain as a Havre de Grace City Council member. I have a diverse background, retiring honorary from Maryland State Police with 20 years of service, working in the private sector, and running my own business. I have attended and graduated from the 2016 Harford Leadership Academy and earned my certification from the University of Maryland Academy of Excellence in Local Government, the School of Public Policy in 2018. I was elected to the Havre de Grace City Council in May of 2015. I'm serving in my 4th term. My prior experience has me uniquely prepared to serve the citizens of Havre de Grace. I am fiscally responsible, have a strong work ethic, and possess common sense. I offer in-depth knowledge to a variety of issues through my diverse experience. I currently hold the following municipal positions: Havre de Grace Water and Sewer Chair, Havre de Grace Administrative Committee Member, Havre de Grace Strategic Initiative Review Committee, Havre de Grace Ethics Commission member, Havre de Grace Parks and Harbor Committee Chair, Havre de Grace Tourism Advisory Board Liaison, Havre de Grace Marina Commission member, Havre de Grace Public Works Commission member, and the Maryland Municipal League Legislative Committee and Bylaws Review Committee. Please remember to vote for me on May 2nd. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'll echo the comments. Thank you, Dr. Jaffe and Brenda, for putting this on. Fellow candidates, it's good to see you all, even if it's virtually, and get to know a little bit about everybody, so I appreciate this opportunity. My name is Jason Robertson. For those that don't know me, I'm married. I have a son. He attends Havre de Grace Elementary. He's just turned 10 this past weekend. My wife, Tracy, I'm not going to tell you her age, but trust me, she's a good one, and I couldn't do anything that I do without her. I currently serve on the Havre de Grace City Council. I'm finishing up my third term, where I serve as council liaison for the Havre de Grace Youth Commission, the Havre de Grace Water and Sewer Commission, the Economic Development Advisory Board. I am liaison to the Admin Committee, Strategics Initiative Committee, and I chair the Budget and Finance Committee, as well as having served on the Planning Committee. I hold a bachelor's in Government and Public Policy and a master's in Public Administration with a concentration in Government Budget and Public Finance, both from the University of Baltimore. For full-time, I am a budget analyst with the VA Maryland Healthcare System, so I deal with numbers and large projects all day. Nothing glamorous, nothing glorious, but very important work. And I want to continue to serve here in Havre de Grace because I think that the work that I've done so far has been valuable, and what I have to offer for the future is valuable. So I thank everybody for tuning in and educating themselves. And like everyone else has said, please come out and be sure to vote May 2nd.
My name is Rich Wayner. I've been a resident of Harford County for about 40 years and moved to Havre de Grace 6 years ago with my wife of 29 years to the home that we plan to retire and enjoy the balance of our life in. I'm currently a project manager for the Department of Defense. I'm attached to the office that runs veterinary clinics around the world for military working dogs, as well as privately owned animals for retired military members, as well as active duty members and their families. My normal duties include analyzing the operations of large clinics and looking for ways to improve efficiency and other aspects of their operation to improve the quality and access to care, to exploit cost-saving opportunities, and generally make the organizations run in a more efficient manner. I feel these concepts translate very well to the goals of the City Council as well. I have a master's degree from the University of Maryland in project management and a bachelor's degree in computer science, also from the University of Maryland. I completed both of these while working full-time and raising a family. I understand the challenge of trying to balance family, work, life, and everything else that gets thrown at you. My other past experience has included all levels of procurement for the state of Maryland in both the Highway Administration, the Department of Corrections, as well as in the private sector for Caterpillar. I've seen finance and the control of capital in both state and private sector, and most recently, the federal government. This has caused me to have a heightened awareness of not only how money is spent, but also the second and third order effects of every decision that is made. It's made me very detail-oriented and focused on what things actually say rather than how they are interpreted. This is a critical skill when working with contracts, and I believe it will be very valuable when reviewing legislation, ordinances, and other things with the City Council. Since moving to Havre de Grace, I've been heavily involved in the city, sitting on the Economic Development Advisory Board, EDAB, including a term as chairman. I'm also seated on the Board of Appeals, and you'll find me volunteering. I am out of time.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now start with the questions, and Sharon, you'll be starting, and we'll be following our order from there. So the first question, let's just jump right into it. Havre de Grace is faced with a myriad of challenges associated with water and sewer. What creative ideas do you have to keep Fund 9, the Water and Sewer Fund, solvent and help alleviate the need to raise water and sewer rates?
Well, thanks, Dave. And that is a great question. And so over the past weeks, I have been reviewing our Water and Sewage Fund 9 and our city budget. And so as I understand, I think the current city council and past city councils have done a great job to maintain our costs at a reasonable rate. I think the last raise was in July of 2019 when the water and sewer fund was increased and was voted on by the council. So what I would do as a city council member is really learn from what we've done in the past to maintain proper water and sewage rates, to ensure that we are doing what we can to ensure that our water is clean, it is healthy, and is safe for use for consumption by our residents, and just ensure that we are planning and preparing to maintain the water and sewage for our communities going forward.
No one likes taxes at all. So that would be something that, I don't think that we tried not to do, but in order to keep money into the Fund 9, I think we should look at opportunities for entertainment, events, activities that are in the city that are going to bring revenue to the city that we can use and put towards the Fund 9. In addition to having people move to Havre de Grace. And that will also mean that there are more people in the city, in our city, and participating in the commerce of our city. And those are some things that we can do. And we've done a lot of great things in the city, but I think there are some other activities and events that we can look at to bring more people into the city. And that money can go into the Fund 9.
Yes, I agree with some of those ideas that have already been proposed. I also would, again, from an environmental lens, think of maybe what kind of conservation initiatives we could explore in terms of not only conserving at a municipal level, but also encouraging citizens to conserve water. While no one wants water rates to go up, as we've said, we do kind of get a bargain for our clean water that we get out of our taps. So I would like to explore a little bit of technology, what kind of things are available in terms of innovations that maybe we could explore, as well as, again, like I said, conservation being a huge piece of this. Thank you.
I want to thank the candidates for advising that the city is on the right path. We need to seek a means to cost effectively increase water production for use by the community, but also allow sales to Aberdeen and Harford County to continue. On the wastewater treatment plant, the opportunity to integrate the effluent, which is the liquid waste of sewage discharge, to cycle back into the system with the addition process chart changes and new businesses on Old Bay Lane. Ways to possibly reintroduce the effluent into the aqua filter for purification. There are bills in Annapolis over the last 2 years allowing this to happen in Western Maryland. So it's things that the city needs to look at in the future. Thank you.
Well, as some may not know, Fund 9 is an enterprise fund. That means that the revenue that Fund 9 generates has to pay for the costs that Fund 9 incurs. So really, I mean, you're faced with two opportunities to raise revenue to take care of costs. Brenda, I'm sorry, you have a lot of static coming through and it's very distracting.
I did.
Yep. Yeah. All right.
I think it's coming from yours.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, Fund 9 is an enterprise fund. The revenue that it generates has to offset the costs. It cannot use tax dollars from anywhere else in the city to do that. So you have two real opportunities, to take care of the costs that are associated with producing water in the city, and that's either to raise rates or to decrease costs. And the city's been doing both. over a period of time. Now, as Sharon mentioned, the city hasn't had to raise rates since 2019. That's mainly due to some of the conservation efforts that Donna had referred to, that's with the SCADA system. So you're dialing back your personnel expenses, you're dialing back the amount of chemicals that go in to treat the water. As David mentioned, the other side of that is creating more water users. So we have this deal with Aberdeen that should produce between $600,000 and $900,000 a year in revenue once they become at full capacity. And then off of that, we can water wheel to the county, so that creates more users for the system, and that creates downward pressure on the total cost burden that the citizens of Havre de Grace have to incur.
And there are basically two ways that we can, one, keep the rates at least where they are and not raise, and then hopefully not have them elevate in the future. One, as Jason just mentioned, is the sale of water to Aberdeen and potentially farther into Harford County in the future to allow more users, therefore more money being dumped into the fund to maintain it. And secondly, and I think equally as important, is as development occurs, to make sure that the cost of a lot of the development that will be necessary to get water to new housing is shared or absorbed by the developers that are doing it, particularly as we move up the hill all around Bully Rock, the Green Patron property. There are going to be a lot of large infrastructure projects that are going to go along with that building once it starts. It's imperative that the city not eat the cost of those infrastructure costs, that the developer be on the hook at least for part of it, if not the lion's share of it.
So I love Havre de Grace. Everyone does. It's a signature city. It's a hallmark town. But if you look below the surface, roughly just 3 foot below the surface, we do have our problem. Like any other city in the continental United States, we need to improve our infrastructure. We literally have infrastructure 3 foot just below our feet that is really as old as President Roosevelt. Now I'm talking about Teddy Roosevelt, okay? That's how old that these pipes are. When you pressurize these systems up to the new tanks that are actually being put in right now, you start blowing pipes out. You will know that a lot of you probably don't know that there's a massive loss of water recently right here at Revolution and Juniata Street. So it's like 18% of last year's production water was kind of pretty much lost, at that intersection. So water rates are inevitable going to raise. The issue is we have to be managers and manage the rate in which it increases. We also have to look at, oh, that's me? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Next question, we're going to pick up with Vicky starting us off. And this is about the hospital. What's your understanding of any development plans for the property? Is there a way our community, as one of the stakeholders, can have a say in its use?
My understanding is that the city is in conversations with the health system right now, and that hopefully those negotiations will lead to some kind of agreement, where the city will be able to either use the hospital for some other purposes. As I understood, it could be, if the person who owns it decides to sell it, it could be hotel property or some other property. But I think for the most part, what I'm hearing is that folks would like to keep the building in the community and within, for the city purposes of the city.
I know this is a huge issue for the citizens that I talk to for 2 reasons. One, because we're concerned about the hospital property. We're concerned about losing that service in downtown Havre de Grace, but also because it's one of the decisions that has been made recently where I feel large portions of the citizenry of Havre de Grace feel like they haven't had any kind of say in the decision. I know that survey just came out recently, excuse me, which said that people feel much more informed about the entertainment kind of activities that are going on in town, and less about these kind of governmental decisions that are going on in town. So regardless of what happens with the property, I think it's really important that we listen to stakeholders and that we get input from different factions of the city in order to make those final decisions.
At this time, the city has no knowledge for the future development from the University of Maryland. Requirements can be put in place to ensure the new building remains and meets the architectural design to match the historic city area and district. How developers adjust to the COVID-19 pandemic will be the driving force. Large open spaces or small areas with great Wi-Fi accessibility. For millennials, the property used for mixed use, a commercial ground floor, the upper floors will be residential. The commercial area could be consistent with daycare, lunch, dinner establishments, juice bars, and after-school venues. An age-restricted 55+ development could lead to similar things with generic medical offices, pharmacy, juice bars, wines, and a learning center. So there are options available. We're waiting to see which way the developer is leaning for the city to put support behind it.
So for the downtown property, there is currently a developer that has a contract with Upper Chesapeake, and you'll have to excuse me, I forget the term, but it's basically a contract for a period of time where the developer can do their due diligence. The only thing that the city has seen from that has been what you call a massing sketch. It was like a total of 146 or 142 units, varying income, but you know, it seemed like the amount of density that was being proposed would maybe be a little bit too much for that 9-acre parcel or 9-acre incontiguous parcel of our downtown. So that's something that I'm working very closely with the administration about. Our planning department actually just hired a consultant to specifically look at the feasibility of the things coming from the developer, and put that in conjunction with the things that we as the city would like to see happen on that parcel and what would make sense. I'm also working with the Budget and Finance Committee to figure out some incentives that we could provide to get the exact type of development that we're looking for.
Yes, because that is a privately owned piece of property, a city does not own it. What we can do as far as controlling its use is somewhat limited. As others have spoken to, we can try to direct them in a direction we would like and incentivize it to be developed in a direction we would like. But at the end of the day, the city not being the owner of that property is going to be very limited on how much control we can have over that.
So I just told you a few moments ago about my military history, and I can tell you right now that I'm a fighter, and I'm going to fight for the citizens of Havre de Grace. There's no way I can have a medical facility within arm's reach, and we moved here for the purpose of that, for the rug to be pulled out from underneath us. I know there's current developments going on, and I'm going to be active in there. I'm going to talk to Mr. Sheldon. I'm going to work hard with the city administration, and we're going to see what we can do. I know a lot of emergency service are talking about moving them to the Aberdeen facility. I have a heartburn with that because that Aberdeen facility is not on the schedule to accept Medicare Part C. So as your councilman, I'm going to lobby very, very hard and be a squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And we're going to do something with our emergency services, or we're going to have a strategic plan that takes care of those citizens of Havre de Grace and protect our assets. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to add, I think everyone's comments have been spot on. But I think the question that I heard was, what would be my plans and my development for use of the Harvard Memorial Hospital? I would love to see a new healthcare training center come to Harford County. And just imagine, we have access to up north, the Delaware medical companies in Delaware and Philadelphia. We have access here to Aberdeen Proving Ground, who just opened a 79 space laboratories on Edgewood, the Defense Centers for Public Health. And we have all of the emergency services that are local here in Harford County as well. Imagine starting a healthcare training center here that is using AI, machine learning, robotics, and all these new technologies that are coming out to help build job creation in Havre de Grace, first and foremost. So thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for adhering to our time guidelines, although I know it's extremely challenging. 1 minute is not a long time at all to answer these questions. I'd like to apologize to you candidates and to all of you who are watching for some of the little technical glitches tonight. We've got some sound issues. Please bear with us. I think we can get through the whole thing despite them. And just want to acknowledge that. Do your best, and we're doing our best here to get through them as well. So the next question, I believe we start with Donna, and this is a business development question. Organizations and investor groups from outside Havre de Grace, the county, and sometimes from out of state are taking over local businesses and events, and the monies and jobs then leave the city and our immediate area. What can you and we do to encourage the startup of locally owned businesses and to promote and support our existing locally owned businesses?
Thank you. I agree that some of the locally owned businesses in town tend to struggle, particularly in the downtown area. I think as the city council, this is something that we could do to incentivize local business, that we could make sure that that we are giving extra support to businesses that are local, that are city owned, and that where the money's going to stay local. The other thing that we could look at as a council is, some kind of limitation on the amount of outside influence that we could, that people could, that outside entities could invest in our town and offer the locals the ability to take over those storefronts, et cetera, first before offering them outside of town.
Great question. One of the things that you'll see from the city currently is working with our economic development group. They have money available for facade development. They are working to keep businesses in our town. The goal is to keep Havre de Grace a small and historic district. The redevelopment program that you'll see over the next couple of years, as the mayor said in the past, over the next 10 years, it's a critical time for what you're going to see downtown. The goal is to continue to build small businesses, small family-owned businesses in this area with the support of the city council and the administration, along with our tourism board, our economic development group, and working with the workforce and other type of agencies that bring in employees to this area.
Yeah, I think as far as soliciting new businesses, Bridget Johnson with economic development has been knocking it out of the park. We've gotten just not only the storefronts that you see downtown, but many office spaces are being occupied right now. Much of that to do with contractors coming over from APG. So it's really amazing that we've been able to attract them. One thing that I think the city could do better is helping with the county's enforcement aspect on some of the small businesses. So, the health department has made it really difficult for new businesses to stand up, and unless you have a lot of capital behind you, it's really difficult to get through that process. We've seen that with the renovations of Abbey Burger. That was 6-8 months in time that took. We're seeing it now with Bowman's Butcher Shop. They're still not open here in Havre de Grace, and that's been over a year in the process. So if anything, I think the city and especially the administration could possibly be a better advocate when liaisoning to the county or to the outside entities to help these businesses.
Yeah, so in EDAB, we have been trying to shepherd a lot of the small businesses on grants and other things that are available to them to make the outsides and in some cases the insides of their structures a little bit more appealing, the facade project, and to try to make sure that they have everything that can be provided to be successful. But we also need to make sure that when we're looking at putting businesses, especially in the downtown area, that we're creating a stable business atmosphere and putting anchor businesses in. And part of that is, as Jason just alluded to, being an advocate to make sure that county things aren't getting in the way or causing already existing or businesses that would like to come in from being obstructed in doing so. So that is something that I think as a council, we could definitely probably do a little bit better job of.
So as president of the Alliance and the vice president of the Chamber of Commerce, I can tell you that I'm a strong advocate of small business downtown. Just a fun fact, as of December 2021, actually 11 businesses have actually opened and received facade fit outs facade fit outs as well as particular grants. As a matter of fact, the same person who actually purchased my wife's business actually was a recipient of such grant. So that's kind of like our thing, right? That's what we do. It's not just the downtown; it's the entire Route 40 district that we focus on, right? As a Chamber of Commerce. So if you look at all the different businesses along the Route 40, that's what we're responsible for too within our purview. So that's one thing. So and you know about Main Street organization, right? At one time, the Main Street organization was nested up underneath the Havre de Grace Alliance, right? And so the Main Street organization is responsible for when organizations come in, we actually communicate with them, let them know what things are available. Now the city doesn't have a whole lot to do with businesses, right? It's up to the business to actually seek out the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
Yes, I think one of the things that we could do in Havre de Grace to ensure we have startups here coming here and doing business with us in Havre de Grace is to definitely offer some type of incentives. I think Dave mentioned grants that are available from the state as well as potential grants locally. We can help businesses that want to come here and help them start up their companies. I think also maybe there could be some incentives from our city council for businesses that have been here for long periods of time that we provide them with some incentives for their loyalty to Havre de Grace, as well as for their willingness to stay here with us, and that we support them as much as we can. I think the First Fridays are definitely a great event that Havre de Grace has been doing to showcase our businesses to our residents. And we have guests that come as far as New York or even DC to be a part of those First Fridays events. So that is phenomenal. And maybe consider something like the ground floor hub here in Havre de Grace, where if you don't need a whole storefront, you can at least have a cubicle where you can put your business in there and maybe have a quilting club that comes in and do their quilting, and that's all they do. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, we start with Dave Martin. And,
Dave, I didn't get to.
Oh, I'm sorry. My apologies. Go right ahead.
That's all right. I was going to say one of the things, or a few things. One is that we can provide support so that businesses can understand how to access business services, making sure that the city is being proactive and going to meet the businesses where they are, and also talking to them to find out what their needs and wants are. I have had some conversations with businesses, and they do feel like they want more interaction with the city council, like coming to their store, asking them questions. And I think that that's one thing we can do in addition to maybe identifying micro grants. I know the county procurement process, the county executive is also looking to break down that process so that small businesses have more access to those funds. So I think that's something we can also make sure that we look at, because that should be coming on the horizon.
Thank you, Vicki. Dave, now we start with you. With the next question. And you actually mentioned in your last response city revitalization project. And that's what this question is about. And this has come from a number of different citizens in varying shapes and forms. Basically, it all boils down to, what are your thoughts on the downtown restoration project? And Dave, you touched on it, but feel free to flesh it out a little more, and then we'll hear from the other candidates.
The downtown revitalization is going to be extremely important in that it's going to change the face of the city, and it's going to change the face of how businesses operating downtown. It's creating a more walkable, bikeable, and vehicle-friendly place for the citizens to come. When you're talking about our infrastructure, that will also allow the city to go in and replace the water and sewer lines, to start locating some of the electrical systems or wiring underground. So it's a long-term project with great value to everyone. And finally, the city is looking at purchasing a piece of property, since we're talking about the possibility of losing some parking spaces. Down by Hutchins Park, the city is going to add a parking area that'll add about 70 parking spaces to that area. So we'll have a little bit of loss, but in the long term, we are going to have a better area for tourism and for and our citizens to enjoy beautiful historic downtown Havre de Grace.
Sorry, Dr. Jaffe, would you mind repeating that question?
Sure thing. What are your thoughts on the downtown restoration project?
Thank you. I mean, overall, I think it's a good thing. We have to remember that this project came about from citizen input over a year-long process of citizens calling in and submitting their ideas and thoughts and feelings of what makes Havre de Grace such a great place to be and what they would like to see done in the future. And the biggest things that came with that are walkability, vibrancy of our streetscape, like places to relax, like pocket parks, more benches, things like that. And that's what Tool Design came up with. For me personally, I mean, I live downtown. I walk downtown almost daily. And, you know, I just am looking forward to the day that my wife and I can walk side by side and we're not, you know, going single file when another couple passes. So wider sidewalks that gives the merchants opportunities to come out onto the sidewalk at given times. It makes it a more thriving place for people to be. Every study now represents that, would indicate that walkability is where the future marketplace is. And in a way, it's kind of restoring the original charm of Havre de Grace circa 1773. You know, so it's really, I think, a good thing that will last for generations.
Right now, I think we're experiencing the short-term pain for the extremely long-term gain. The project is going to be a boon as it gets closer to completion. Right now, it's still in the infancy stage. At the end of it, you're going to have a more modernized and improved infrastructure, because as things are being torn up and replaced with new and improved and modern things under the street, that's something that you won't have to deal with for years and years in advance. And what will be laid on top of that will be a result of what people are actually asking for. They were looking for wider sidewalks. They were looking for a more robust and, dare say, comfortable atmosphere to walk around in. As wonderful as Havre de Grace is, it's sometimes it can be difficult to walk down sidewalks, especially when they're particularly crowded. By expanding those out and having the street kind of flow into them, it'll be aesthetically very pleasing, and it'll be a much easier place to walk around, and not only for residents, but for also people traveling, which should lead to additional traffic into our shops.
So we'll just take a downtown business, for example, right? So I'll just say Java by the Bay. So you're going to tear the street up and you're going to fix infrastructure and you're going to come in there with this plan and you're going to make things great. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to help the city create a strategic plan that will have a start point and an end point, and actually will help the businesses survive, not only downtown, but the businesses up on the Route 40 corridor. Now, what this means to a business person, if you're downtown and you're ringing out a sale, and you have your bank service there or your iPad, and you're ringing out a sale, that sale to that person is the lifeblood. That's how they pay their bills. That's their sole income. So if you're ringing out a sale and in the frontal lobe, they're thinking, well, this is going to pay for X, Y, Z, and all of a sudden my power goes out. That I lost that sale because that person doesn't carry cash. So that person walks out the door. So we need to have a strategic plan for the parking. I know that the old Ashford building beside there, that lot could be procured and used for parking. I think it's a great idea. But we're moving forward in the right direction to take care and preserve and protect not only the citizens but the assets of Havre de Grace. That's what I'll do for you as your councilman.
So I think, Dave, you asked what were our thoughts on the revitalization project, and I just want to say I think it's a great idea. I think that the project, as you've heard Jason and Dave both say, will provide a beautiful downtown space and also rich for Havre de Grace residents as well as for those who are visiting. And when you think about visiting, I think about tourism. So I'm thinking about the Great Wolf Lodge is going to be opening up in August right here in Cecil County, and what that will mean for Havre de Grace, because I spend time at a Great Wolf Lodge and I want to go out and visit other surrounding cities. So where do I go? The neighboring town. So we're right here, we're Havre de Grace. We will have a beautiful, extended, much larger walking streets for residents to walk on. It'll be a walking community. It's going to be beautifully renovated. And it's going to be, I think that will bring revenue in as well to Havre de Grace. And so with us having our business development plans in place to increase and support our local businesses, and then bring in those ideals of tourism and hospitality that can help us also create jobs here for persons in Havre de Grace as well.
I'm excited for it, and I think it's necessary. I think that it's going to make Havre de Grace more attractive to not only visitors, but also to residents. And to me, revitalization or a restoration should focus a lot on infrastructure. So more sidewalks, sometimes you have to walk in the street, and it would be nice, because we do want it to be a walkable town, to have those sidewalks. And then also the roads and additional parking. And I'm also hoping that there will be focus on certain areas of town that need a little bit more attention, and it's not just on a couple blocks in the area.
Yeah, I concur with a lot of what's been said in terms of it's just definitely in the long-term best interest of the citizens of Havre de Grace in terms of infrastructure and also the walkability, as many of you mentioned. I would also add safety on to that as well. I think sometimes the combination of pedestrians and cars in such close proximity creates a safety hazard. And I think that from the plans that I've seen, it seems like some of that is going to be mitigated with the new plan. In the short term, though, I do think we need to hear the concerns of our downtown merchants and our customers of the downtown businesses that are concerned about access and customers and parking during the renovation. And I think we need to be aware and work on maybe some creative solutions to those short-term problems that are going to be created.
Thank you all. In the course of that last question, a number of you mentioned some traffic issues. And while we won't have enough time to ask all the questions that have been submitted, I want to give voice to one question here, just to throw it out, since this is a public forum for you all to hear and for all of our citizens to hear. Concerning traffic, particularly in the OPAC neighborhood, and that's this. This is about traffic on Water Street. Currently, there are no speed bumps, and this writer says, I'm not sure if there is a speed limit sign. Actually, there isn't. However, in the time we've lived in the OPAC neighborhood, we've witnessed people speeding quite frequently on Water Street, usually when they're coming off of Union. Many times people turning there disregard pedestrians in the crosswalk as well. Are there plans to mitigate the speed limit through the area of Water Street between Otsego and Erie? When there's a parking lot and more pedestrians, it will continue to be dangerous for folks to speed through there. So, not for a response, just want to put that out there to everybody since we have been talking about this. Feel free to comment if you like with the next question. So the next question, we start with Jason, and It's this. We are a diverse community. What ideas do you have for encouraging and supporting participation in city government and organizations by Havre de Grace citizens from neighborhoods which have been underrepresented traditionally in Havre de Grace?
Thank you, Dr. Jaffe. Just on the last question, I'm not aware of any plans for, I'm sorry, speed signs or anything like that. That's something that I'll take up with the Traffic and Street Safety Committee. But as far as encouraging folks to show up, I've been a big proponent of this. It's just really difficult to get people to come out, to council meetings, to come out to town halls, to come out to forums, to come out to events, and I can't tell you how many doors that I personally knocked, letting folks know what's going on, even about elections and stuff. And, I don't know if it's apathy. I don't know if it's just, people get so bogged down with what they're focused on that everything else is just noise. But that is a concern. And, at one time we started this, like this council road show. And we would go to like different locations within the city, Bully Rock Maritime Museum, Opera House, etc., and host a council meeting. And maybe that's something that we should revisit. Although I like more the forum of the town hall because the people are able to provide more input. But I think that's definitely something that we should do.
If I understand the question, asking how to encourage more diversity in participation in the government, other than advertising and making sure that the word is out, which I believe that the city does a pretty good job of. Most advertisements are on multiple platforms, be it the city website, various Facebook pages. It's hard to imagine anything missing advertisement if to anybody that's willing to look for it. I'm not sure how anyone in a council could actually encourage it any more than it's already being done. We can't make people go out and participate or attend meetings or volunteer or anything. The only thing you can do is make it available to them and as advertised as publicly as humanly possible, to encourage them to do so. I mean, I look at the slate of candidates we have right now, and we have a pretty diverse group across the board. So obviously they're doing something right.
So I'll go ahead and address the issue with the unposted speed. I don't know for sure, right? But I think if you're driving down within city limits and there's an unposted speed limit, I think it's an understood of 25 or 30 mile an hour. But let me tell you this much: I'm excited. I love the diversity. I love cultural diversity. I'm all about it. I remember when Campaign 42, if you recall, was a thing, and that was one of their biggest pushes, was to get more diversity up in the municipality. And I was a huge advocate of that. I still am. I'm American Indian, so there is a lot of diversity going on right here, and I really love that. Going Habitat for Humanity. Let's go down Battery Drive. I'm knocking on doors down in Battery Drive, talking to people, and they're asking me, hey, how do I get involved? And I'm like, well, there are ways to get involved. There are particular forums. You can actually monitor, just go to the city website. You can monitor what's going on. Come into City Hall and learn what's going on and learn how you can actually introduce legislation. It's really fun. It's something that I like to do, moving Havre de Grace forward, right? And right there, especially right there on Battery Drive, where I think the city is going to purchase some property for Habitat for Humanity. So a lot of good movement there. I like that.
Yes, I want to first address the traffic on Water Street. I think the city does need to take a strong look at that issue and put in place some type of road structures in order to prevent any accidents or incidents from occurring where personnel who may be walking, pedestrians, get struck by a vehicle just because we have not done anything and we know of the issue. to address diversity in the communities and diversity in terms of participation in our city governments. I think some things could be done. We could definitely look at changing the date and time of our city council meetings to make it more attuned to when most individuals are not working or when they can't participate. Maybe have an event on a Saturday to get the community to come out and be a part of that. You can consider having a town hall in the Star Auditorium, in the Star Center, where you can have a larger audience participate. But what I would, and also I would say, encourage the use of the comments box at the city council office for folks to just come in and drop their comments in there more often. But I would say one thing to do is to definitely attend the Havre de Grace Colored School Jazz Festival in August and have a table there and put out information about what your city government is doing.
Great, thank you. For the Water Street issue, I think that some signs would be a pretty good idea for that. And when we talk about reaching out to underrepresented in Havre de Grace, I'm the leader of a local membership organization, and 54% of that membership is from Havre de Grace. And all of them come to the meetings on a monthly basis. I think that what may be missing is that individual touch that goes a long way. People need to feel that they have a purpose and that you're interested in them. And so, providing those different opportunities for engagement in certain areas of the community. I agree with what Sharon said in regards to flexible time. I have had folks tell me that the time that we meet does not work. So we need to take on and be flexible and ensure that as many people can participate as possible, and being intentional about being in their space and meeting them where they are.
You took the words right out of my mouth, Vicki. That's what I just wrote down. Meet people where they are, whether it be at the libraries, whether it be at the schools. A lot of times you can get inroads to getting families involved. If you go through the school, the teacher in me comes out, and if you can capture kids and get them interested in what's happening in their community, a lot of times the parents come along, and it can be intimidating for people to engage in any kind of government activity without having had that experience. So again, I think we need to meet people where they are, but also educate in terms of why it's meaningful and how you can be part of the conversation. It's easy to complain on social media, but we need to give people other options as well for voicing opinions.
Great question. One of the first things I will say is comments about moving our meetings to where the people are. I'm working with the mayor and the administration on actually making a charter change that would allow us to move a city council meeting to different locations. As said in the past, we have gone off-site, but if you go with our charter says all meetings of the city council have to occur on the first and third Mondays, and they have to occur in City Hall. So that is a piece of legislation that I have put forward to the mayor and the administration, and we are working on looking at a charter change to allow us to go to other locations and meet the people. As far as the signs, I trust in our Havre de Grace PD, Chief Teresa Walter, that because this complaint has come forward, she will look into it and she will take the appropriate action required by law enforcement. The last comment is, I am reaching out to various, and I've heard other candidates say they are going to various locations and knocking on doors. You can't do anything else except knock on doors, introduce yourself, ask them their concerns and questions, and give them advice on how they can apply, and just like the candidates here, come forward, but also talk about the boards and commissions that they can apply to, and they will be chosen from their application. Thank you.
Thank you all. Our next question begins with Rich. And this is about the Star Center, which has just come up. Should the Star Center be administered by the city, or should proposals from management companies be requested to operate the facility as was stated would happen when the Cultural Arts Center, that is the Opera House, was initially created.
I'm not sure that the city should be in the business of operating a for-profit entertainment venue, especially something the size of the Star Center. It would involve quite a bit of oversight, a lot of additional employees, and a lot of headache that I'm not sure the city itself is particularly prepared for. A management company that specializes in that sort of thing is going to be able to do it better. They're going to be able to do it more efficiently and in a more cost-saving manner because they know exactly what needs to be done and what needs to be in place for the various types of acts they bring in. You're not talking about just music. You're talking about, dances and a host of other types of things that no one in this that the city's going to hire is probably going to be a professional on all of those things and what's involved. So a management company, on the other hand, would know exactly where to go and who to talk to and what to have in place.
So the city had a golden opportunity to capitalize on that newer structure that we all call the Star Center, right? So the Star Center is generating revenue slowly but surely, right? And a lot of the financing of the Star Center signage and so on and so forth and new construction is actually done with bonds. It's not residing on the citizens' tax dollars, right? So the city administration, they actually have a plan, a 3-year plan where they will actually snap the chalk line and make a decision on whether or not it's going to be a viable thing to have. As it does start to go in the red, these funds will recuperate back into the city to go for capital improvement. Now, whether that's going to happen or not, no one really knows, right? So because that's a whole career field to manage something of that magnitude. This is something that requires some serious management. You just can't hire anyone off the shelf to take this on. You have to come at this with a strategic mind. There is some good minds out there who know how to do this particular thing. And I think it's going in the right direction, but we'll know in about 3 years.
Great question. I think when we moved here in 2010, one of the things that we learned about Havre de Grace that it was the arts entertainment district of Harford County. I think the Star Center is a great idea and a great concept, but I don't think that the management of it should be under the city council, under the city administration for a long period of time. I know we're doing that now in order to get the Star Center to where a place where we want it to be. But I think if we want to truly be the arts and entertainment center of Harford County and this area, that we need to hire a professional management company to take that on and provide the revenue to the city from what it does there. But we should not be in that business long term.
For me, that's we'll see how it goes. I mean, I can see as demand grows where we might, that might become an option, but I'd want to wait and see how it goes. I do not think though, however, that we should sell the building.
I think I would need a lot more information in order to make a determination. Either way, it sounds like from people who have a lot more experience with this, I'm hearing that it's going to kind of be a wait and see what the numbers look like and what the revenue look like. So I need a lot more information about that before making a determination. But I will say that I would like to see the Star Center offer some opportunities for our youth in the city. I feel like there's not a lot of opportunities for young people, particularly middle school age students. So I would like to see somehow the Star Center be utilized for a, maybe not for profit kind of opportunity for those students to get involved in something.
And summer camps.
All right, the Star Center. First, you got to understand, the city was placed between a rock and a hard place. The school board was going to tear it down, the old auditorium and gym. And then it was turned into property that was being able to donate it back to the county back to us. The county never gives any funding. And when we talk about funding, there are grants that have the state of Maryland. So it's not a bond where the city owes money. We have got $500,000 from the state of Maryland. When we talk about a professional management team, we have hired 4 employees that are managing it. Yes, we need to keep an eye on it. And the city does have a 3-year plan where we are going to monitor and make sure. The biggest thing is the city wants to at least operate it so that it is at a break-even point and not a tax loss. It's all about the marketing and renting of that building. So going forward, the city has a plan, and you just have to let the city move forward with its plan and its management and see, with the additional funding we're getting from the state of Maryland, where this shakes out.
Yeah, Dave's pretty much on point there with some of the history. About a year ago, I met with the administration, Bambi Johnson, and she had developed like this business plan because we had reached out to some management companies. Ram's Head was one of them. Like, hey, would you like to take this over? And part of the issue was the amount of investment that they would have to do just did not make business sense for them to come in. So at the same time, we have this property, it's surplus, the city owns it, and we want to start using it. We want to have the shows, we want to run the summer camps that are being run, we want to have the rec programs in there utilizing the gym space. So in order to do that, and in order to not have it be a full burden on the citizens, we had to start operating it as a business. A couple years back, we got a grant from the state, a little over $100,000 to do a feasibility study. Out of that feasibility study, a whole bunch of great things came a whole bunch of great ideas came out to make the place a really vibrant performing arts center. But the biggest thing is how the management would be handled and the employees and the staffing. So it very much mirrors the situation with Baltimore City and the Hippodrome. And that's a quasi-government owned and managed facility, and that's kind of what we've mirrored our staffing under. And it's a 3 to 5 year plan to see where we can get from now to then in terms of profitability and in terms of management. And remember that the staff is not only managing the Star Center, they're also managing the community center and the Opera House as well.
Thank you, candidates. Next question, I believe we're starting back with Johnny Boker up at the top of the order. And the question is this: what are your thoughts on term limits for council members and for mayor and why?
So I know that there are certain incentives for people who serve 20 consecutive years at a municipality, right? You get something from MML, Red Ocean City. But I'll tell you that for Johnny Boker's perspective, I've been campaigning for quite a while, and I've always thought this, that it's good for a candidate to come in there and serve, and then go ahead and move out. Whether that term limit is 8 years or 12 years, I think there might need to be a cap established. I think that's a well-worthy discussion, because oftentimes we're human, and so we become complacent, and we need to see these new ideas that are coming forward. A few months ago, I didn't know about Chat GPT, and now I'm all about this AI, right? Especially in the workplace and things of that nature. So things are evolving and changing, and I think with some new blood, as it were, to come into office could be refreshing. Thank you.
Yes, I think term limits are okay. I mean, we could establish for our city council and mayor's office where maybe the term limit becomes 3 or 4 years, and you take a break, and if you decide to come back and run again for another term, you could do that. But I don't think anyone should be in a position perpetually. And so I would love to see term limits established with some type of process whereby if an individual decides they want to come back after serving their term limit, that they could do that after a recycle.
I absolutely agree with term limits and like term limits. I think it allows for differences of opinions. I think it allows for increased diversity. I also think it encourages other people. It's an opportunity for other people who may want to be involved and aren't sure how to be able to step up and feel like they have a place and a space in the city council.
I think in a lot of ways, elections are term limits. We spoke earlier about engaging the electorate. And I think when the electorate is engaged, they know what they want in terms of leadership. They know who they want to continue to serve. That being said, though, I do think that if it is the will of the people that, we limit the terms of the city council or we limit the terms of the mayor, then that it should be up to the governed to decide that. But in a lot of ways, term limits can be solved by, people deciding whether or not they want certain people to continue to represent them.
Okay, I'll start very easily. I'm against term limits. I understand the reasoning that people are talking behind it. When I ran for council, myself and another candidate unseated 2 incumbents. The citizens made their term limits there. But those candidates had won and lost in other elections and came back. So when we talk about the knowledge and experience of existing council and the ability for the citizens to say, you know what, I think Dave's been there too long, we're going to vote him out. Well, that's what it's about. It's about the citizens being able to say, I like what's happening. I like the direction that this council is going in. I like the direction the mayor's going in. I want to see them reelected. Hey, I don't like the direction the council is going in. I don't like the direction the mayor's going in. Then we vote them out. That's the very simple thing we can do. And when you talk about people coming out, they have a right to come out and vote. One of the things that disappoints me is the fact that the city of Havre de Grace has one of the lowest turnouts of registered voters, and we need to see more voters come out and make their voices heard.
Yeah, so like everyone, well, like some folks have said, the election is really the time when the citizens can replace a person that they don't think is doing an effective job. This isn't Congress. None of us are sitting here for 60 years and then drawing a fat pension and all the while receiving buku dollars from donors and making ourselves and our families more powerful. This is truly a volunteer position. And Dr. Jaffe, when you started off this forum, you spoke about the fact that last year there were no contenders that ran. So there was an open seat, an open seat, an open seat. I'm going to repeat that, an open seat. And nobody ran for that. So what do you do in that situation if, one of the council members are term limited? I mean, it just makes no sense. Participate if you want to be interested in your community, you want to serve your community, or don't. But there's no term limit. I mean, that's just... Anyway, I know that's a national thing. I agree with it nationally. Locally, it just does not make sense. And again, you do want some experience managing your town for the next century. I mean, what we're doing today will be here a century from now. My grandchildren will see it and have to deal with issues. And you want somebody that knows what they're doing and has some experience in managing these things.
Yes, term limits on an institutional level at the city council level is a very slippery slope. You have 2 situations that can happen. One, as Jason just alluded to, other elections where there just simply aren't enough people running to fill the vacancies. If people were term limited out, you would end up with having council members being appointed. I'm not going to say frequently, but occasionally they would not even be elected. They would be appointed because no one ran for a spot that someone that was already in the spot was no longer allowed to take because of the term limit. And that's never going to be that's not what we're striving for. And you also have the intellectual drain because from what I understand, the city council is an extremely steep learning curve. There is a lot to absorb. And if people are just hitting their stride and then suddenly they have to stop, you're starting over again. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a question about communication. And Johnny, you discussed this a little bit in one of your earlier answers, and you'll have a chance to flesh it out some more. But you're the last one to wrap this one up. We're going to be starting with Sharon, and here's the question. Access to information from the city is spotty. Verbal information from employees can be incomplete or incorrect for issues like permitting and zoning requirements. Agendas, minutes, and supporting documentation through the city's website for the different commissions and committees are sometimes difficult to find, incomplete, or non-existent. Do you support making it a priority to fix this public accountability issue? And with the city's current downtown revitalization, how do you improve communication on what and when things are happening? And how can we improve communication for merchants and citizens on this important transformation?
Okay, well, that is a lot, but thank you. I think first and foremost that for communication from the city council, from the planning commissions, from the staff, the Department of Public Works and Economic Development, et cetera, and what those department heads are doing, those directors are doing, that information is available on the Havre de Grace City Council's website. As you heard Dave say earlier, our charter, our code, any resolutions or ordinances are also on our website for information. Now, how do we improve communications going forward? We have to make sure we put the information out there. We have to make sure that we hold our commissions accountable, that they provide a written report, and that written report gets posted to our website. We could potentially mail items out to all our residents, but that's going to be costly. So I don't think we want to do that anytime soon. But really, it's about communicating, going to the website, sending your questions in to our administrators, and looking for responses and answers to come back. When it comes to revitalization and what that plan is going to occur, I would love to see some banners or signs up in the community, what's going on when, so that the citizens can be informed as to what's going to take place when it comes to revitalization and know what's going to be open, what's going to be closed, and what to expect downtown.
Thanks. That was a lot. So I hope that I'm able to touch on everything in that question. I think that I would think of it as a priority. I do go to the Havre de Grace website a lot, and it is a little difficult for me to navigate at times and to find the information I'm looking for. So I think looking at that and maybe a refresh would not be a bad idea. I also think that, we're in this age of communicating via social media, and there are lots of different platforms that we can consider. So perhaps that's something that we can look at and try to see which ones do our citizens use most and make sure that's a way to communicate. We know that not everyone has access to social media, may not use it, may not have access to the internet. So there, may be an opportunity where we can send special, postcards or something like that does bring into a cost. But there are some things that, maybe as Dave mentioned earlier, having different forms in different communities so that people have that information, and one specifically for businesses as well.
Remember that the city used to send out a newsletter. And I really enjoyed receiving that as a citizen, and just maybe, finding some things out that I didn't know were going on, as much as I try to stay up to date and engaged with things. But again, as Sharon pointed out, there is a cost to that, to producing a newsletter. Someone has to produce it, someone has to mail it. So maybe a marriage of the two things, in terms of, we produce an online newsletter that people can request a printed copy of if they don't have access, and also using some of the technology available to us in addition to social media, like QR codes posted around downtown. You can scan your QR code and, get to, what's happening in Havre de Grace kind of, landing page that maybe then can branch off into some other things. I do believe in the light of the survey that I referenced earlier, it is not a small percentage of the population that feels like they are not informed in a lot of ways of what's happening. So I see that as definitely a productive use of time and resources.
Okay, that last question I felt had a lot of misinformation and I will kind of go with the city. This administration recently created a completely brand new website. So we became more interactive friendly. As far as the minutes from the city council meeting, we have taken the time to put the minutes from our history from 1878 back in. So if you want to check something, you can go to 1878 and look and find our minutes. City council meetings are live streamed. They're on YouTube, so you can sit there, you can ask questions, you can see the agenda. Everything is right there. So if you have a question as what happened, you can go to YouTube and look and see what happened at a city meeting. When you talk about the posting, they are posted in the lobby. You can come in before a meeting and pick up a copy of the agenda. And that agenda can be very large. And that's one of the reasons why we're trying to go a little bit more computer friendly, because when you talk about a 134-page agenda and everybody has to have a copy of it, we're trying to do that and get away from it. So I think social media is not the right answer.
Yeah, so during the website refresh, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, the administration really harped on all of the committees and public commissions to ensure that their agendas were sent in to the administration in time, in a timely fashion, so that they would be posted a week in advance of any meeting that was to be held. Every meeting is public, so the public has the opportunity to attend any of those meetings. And then once the meeting minutes are approved, those are also put back online. Also, as part of the refresh, it occurred to me through citizens that not every resolution was posted online. The current ones were, but any of past significance. So a resolution would be online for an upcoming agenda, and then it would disappear after it's approved. So that got corrected. So those are now on the E-code, and you can search through the resolutions. I do agree. I mean, this is kind of back to Donna's point about meeting people where they are. I tell the mayor all the time, I mean, simple things like our water quality report, we could easily, the city could easily just pop that on their Facebook, and that would really counteract a lot of the misinformation that gets rolling down the hill immediately, just because it's there where people already are. I know it's accessible, it's online, it takes 2 seconds to Google it, but again, that's just kind of force feeding people information in a cost-effective way.
Yeah, I think the city already does a pretty good job of making sure that everything is available. I know that minutes and all of the notes from all of the committees that I sit on and the council, everything is available on the city website. But having said that, you do have to dig for it a little bit, which means that you have to make an effort to find it. It's not going to just show up in front of you at your doorstep, and I'm not sure there's any way to do that. One thing someone mentioned, I believe it was Donna, we did touch in economic development a few years back to place small QR codes in various tourist locations around the city. We were going to use it to drive visitors to other tourist attractions that they may find interesting based on where they were. It might not be a bad idea to have something like that available. And I'm thinking specifically for people that may be a little less tech savvy, especially some of our senior population that, they maybe have a smartphone, maybe can use the internet, but maybe aren't as comfortable navigating something as complex as our city website. as wonderful as it is, it still can be a little cumbersome to navigate. So I think that direct link might be helpful.
So go ahead and raise your hand if you have Comcast, right? So we don't have many options, right? So we can preach it, website and drill down, and you'll find it here and you'll find it there. And I get it, right? But it's not a reliable source, right? So when the city had the Citizens Connection that used to come out, I wish it was recyclable. Don't bring it back glossy. And I'm gonna make sure we don't bring it back glossy. The Citizens Connection was something that someone had alluded to earlier that can be mailed to your home, and you can put it on your refrigerator. Right now, it may not have all the details that we're referring to, but it can actually tell you where to go, and it can actually tell you to come to City Hall if you really want to dig down deep and find something. That Citizens Connection was a piece of gold. It told you when you could pick up your trash, when there was dumpster day, right? The other thing I can tell you too, that the city admits that there is a communication problem, and we get it, right? So we're actually working on that, and I'm not even on the dais yet, but I'm still working on it, right? So when you pour concrete down on Washington right before First Friday, that's a problem. There's a miscommunication between the service provider, the infrastructure who poured the concrete, and the city administration. We just need to improve those lines of communication. There are several different ways that we can do so. I'm going to bring that to the city of Havre de Grace. Thank you.
So I appreciate the answers to that one and to the corrections and the facts where you all saw fit. And I want you to know that I intentionally brought that question really because I don't know everybody who sent these questions in, but I do know who sent that one in. And this is somebody who's quite involved in the city, who's quite tech savvy. And yet there is a perception out there that there are some of these issues. So I appreciate all of your answers on that and your willingness to look at ways we can improve. So we're going to do one final question here before I share some of the other questions we don't have time to answer, and then we'll do closing statements in the interests of keeping this forum contained. And here's the last question. We're going to begin with Vicki. If you could change one thing in the city, what would it be? And how would you fund it?
Wow, I get that first question, huh? Wow. If I could change one thing in the city, one thing I would like to see in the city is more opportunities for young people. So we have almost 700 young people in our middle high school and about 500, 600 in our elementary. And we need more spaces for them to play where they don't have to pay. And so I would like to see that more. Again, I understand paying is the way some of this is funded, but there are also different grants and different other funding resources, funding streams that might be able to support some of these opportunities for our young people.
I completely agree with that, Vicki. One of the things that I would change, and this may not be a popular opinion, but I think we're starting to see some issues, and this was brought up with Water Street, with speeding and traffic. And it just makes the safety piece of it is really quite concerning for me as a citizen. Not too long ago, I watched somebody blow right through the stop sign at about 40 miles an hour on the corner by my house. So I kind of think we might be at a place where we start looking at some technology traffic control within the city for the safety of the citizens. And that would be a self-funded thing as well. If rather than just the flashing light that says you're going too fast, maybe that's a warning. And then we start issuing citations for people, particularly around the schools and where the kids are crossing the street to go to school. I think it's traffic and driving has degraded everywhere that I drive, and I'm seeing it here in the city as well. And I think it's a huge safety issue.
I'm going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, water and sewer. Clean waters and toilets that flush. Water pressure for the fire suppression for the hose company that help keep our rates down. Do you know that the water and sewer departments critically impact the Susquehanna Hose Company and its ISO 1 rating? All we have to do is look down the road at the water and sewer issues with Baltimore County, Baltimore City, and other states. The other thing we need to look at is when we were talking droughts, the Mississippi, the Colorado River are going dry. Water is going to be the top commodity that we have to fight. We are at the top of the Susquehanna River in the Chesapeake Bay. We should not have to worry about water, but we do. We need to know how to clean it, how to get it to our people in an easy manner and a cost-effective manner. How we fund it, that's where we need the support and the knowledge of others to come forward and work with us on that.
Well, I agree with Vicky that we don't have enough space, particularly outdoor space, for youth rec programs in Havre de Grace. So I'm gonna, just in the interest of giving a different answer, if I had a magic wand and I had all the influence in the world and I could sweet talk anybody, I would be talking to a high-tier hotel about taking over the UMUC property that's off 95 and getting that development done and underway, and then use the incoming tax revenue, the TARC funding from that hotel. So everybody that pays a hotel stay pays a hotel tax. And that comes back to the city. 50% comes to the city, 50% goes to fund at the county level. But I would use that half of our TARC funding to fund rec programs for the youth of Havre de Grace.
Echoing Jason's magic wand, if I could wave a magic wand and make something happen, I would attract more anchor businesses into our downtown area that perhaps have some later opening hours that would create and sustain more traffic to all of the local businesses around them. We have some wonderful small businesses, but I'm not sure enough of them are open enough to have a sustainable amount of traffic to them. And building onto that, and also I feel like I'm echoing Jason every time I answer, room availability would also be nice, because once we attract people in town, a lot of them have to go somewhere else if they're spending the night. If we could keep them here, that boosts the local revenue for restaurants and other shops, the breweries, whatever. When they're in town, they're going to spend money. So that would be my thing. I would want a couple of anchor businesses that would be able to keep people here once they're here.
So the first thing that came to my mind was my favorite, Elvis Presley, and he had a song, "If I Can Dream." So here's my dream. And as the question was stated, I want to keep our hospital. That's just, do what you got to do. Unlimited funds, blank check. I want to keep a hospital in Havre de Grace. The second thing I want to do is actually to treat citizens just as we treat our tourists, right? I think there is an uneven balance there. I think I know the answer to level that out. I go up and down. Well, I go down Ontario Street and I see what once was beautiful little oak trees are now this big around, and they're on city right away, and the deadfall is falling down on these citizens' houses that are on a fixed income. So I would fix that. I would take care of citizens first. That's my model, citizens first. I would create more jobs. I would try to create more jobs. I would advocate for more jobs in Havre de Grace. For example, the Elite Comfort Solutions that's coming in the next 3 years, the mattress company out on the Clark Complex, going to bring in about 225 jobs in the next 3 years. I love to advocate for things like that. My whole thing, my dream, again, is I want you to hire Havre de Grace talent if at all possible. I want to set the conditions and concessions for possibly hiring within our boundaries as citizens. So that's it.
Thank you. I think that is a very great question. And I know we all did not agree about term limits, but we all do have an expiration date. And so we don't know when that date is coming. And I think something that we need to be concerned about as older adults and more mature adults and trained adults is our young people. I agree wholeheartedly with Vicki and with Donna and everyone else on this panel who said we need to invest in our young people. I did some research, and I think our current city council, Jason Robertson, brought up to the city council the ordinance 1057, the Havre de Grace Youth Scholarship Program. I would love to revisit that program, but also add a work study component to it. Why? Because we need to invest in our young people. We need to teach them how to do a job interview, how to write a resume, how to be civically reminded and responsible in our communities, and show them, help them learn how to lead. We're not going to be here forever. So we are going to leave the world in someone else's hands when we all have expired. And so the more that we can do to help build our young folks up, I think we should do that. Now, how will we fund that? We could put it to a vote to our voters to start a citizens fund, where if you want to invest in young people and help them learn how to be responsible adults and possibly get a work study job with one of our local businesses downtown, that we could support that as a community and support our young people.
Thank you all. We are going to do one more round of concluding remarks, but before we do, I just have a couple of comments. First of all, I want to thank those who were involved in putting this together. Adam from the city, Tammy from the city, most especially my wife Brenda, who far and away has the hardest job of any of us on this panel here, and who did a good job again. Thank you, Brenda. And I especially want to thank, well, two thanks. I want to thank all of you because it's just amazing to see a panel of 7 candidates here. It's a testament to the health of our city, to the health of our democracy. No matter what happens in this election, I think we can all feel good about our city and the direction that it's going. And this is a manifestation of that. I especially want to thank the citizens who sent in questions. So here's the 74 questions, of which we've only answered a few. And before we go into our final concluding remarks, I just want to share with all of you a little bit of the flavor, some of the other topics that we didn't have time to cover. You're certainly free to address them if you like in your closing comments. And these questions include everything from inclusive playgrounds and sensory parks for children and disabilities, Lily Run, which for the first time in 19 years, we did not talk about this year, and its management, the living shoreline restoration, PFAS, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances in the Susquehanna River. There were questions about historic buildings, questions about whether you favor withholding certain books from public schools and libraries. There's a question about the Susquehanna Fire Company's raffle of assault rifles and how you felt about that. Absentee landlord-owned rental properties, and are they a problem in our city? The city's pension plan and the fact that it's very high. What are some solutions to that? And some questions about building codes, zoning, and ordinance, none of which, unfortunately, we had time to get into tonight. And then one final question that comes up and that I always like but didn't have a chance to ask tonight is, when you look back over the past 10 years, what is your single greatest achievement to date? So that's a flavor of what's in this stack. With that, Vicki, you were unfairly pressed with that difficult question. You know, you were on the spot as the first person to answer the question about funding your, One Wish project. You'll have the advantage of being the last one to close up the round here. And so we're going to start concluding remarks with Donna.
I just want to start by saying thank you to David and Brenda, and thank you to all the candidates. This whole process of running for city council has been a really, really a learning experience, but also a really enjoyable experience for me, getting to know all of you. And I feel like You really can't go wrong with anybody on the screen here. Maybe that's not in my best interest to say on here, but the passion that I've seen from you all is really inspiring. On that note, I do want to say that I feel like I've shown here this evening that I do have some fresh ideas. I'm passionate about the city of Havre de Grace. I love the direction it's taken in the time that I've lived here, but I also think that there is room for improvement, and some of the things that have been brought up here tonight in terms of our young people, in terms of managing infrastructure, some things that definitely we can work toward in the future together, in addition to getting some of that citizen engagement that we spoke of earlier too, getting people to want to be involved. I know that we said all the information's there, and I'm not disagreeing with that in any way, but we have to get people to want to use their precious little spare time that most people have to want to work toward becoming informed and working with us to help make Havre de Grace a better place for all of us to live and work and enjoy and shepherd into a beautiful, sustainable future.
First, I want to thank Dr. Jaffe, his wife Brenda, and OPAC for this forum. I'm disappointed there were no Lily Run questions. A special thanks to all the candidates for providing a choice to the citizens of Havre de Grace. I, like many others, have chosen to make Havre de Grace, where the Susquehanna River meets the Chesapeake Bay, my home. I love Havre de Grace, and I am so proud to be here and a member of the City Council. Again, why vote for Dave? Havre de Grace is a city of volunteers. It has always been a place of diversity, whether it be economic, racial, or religious. I believe my record speaks for itself. I plan to continue focusing on fiscally responsible long-term solutions, not short-term Band-Aid fixes. Before I vote on a city ordinance, resolution, or special event, I always ask myself, do my actions improve the quality of life? And are they in the best interest of the citizens I represent? I support the continued growth and recognition of historic diversity as a place of work, industry, housing, and educational parity. Just look at the past 8 years to see the positive changes and maintain Havre de Grace's historic significance and implementation of 21st century living. I have supported converting city buildings to solar power, the addition of electric vehicles, solar electric trolleys, and coming soon an electric bus. Havre de Grace is recognized as a sustainable Maryland, Tree City USA, Pollinator City, and Banner City. The waterfront with its living shoreline, the MS4 mediation, the promenade, walking trails, parks, open space, art galleries, museum. The sale of water to Aberdeen, which should begin in the fall. Future downtown revitalization projects, and the addition of more parking. I continue to recognize and support the services of the Havre de Grace Ambulance Corps, the Susquehanna Hose Company, and ISO 1 rated volunteer fire department, and the only one in the state of Maryland, and Havre de Grace Police Department. Because of their Havre de Grace remains, their dedication, Havre de Grace remains one of the best places to live and safest cities in Maryland and the nation. Remember, vote Dave Martin, May 2nd.
Hey, so again, my name is Jason Robertson. I am finishing up my third term here on City Council. You know, it was really a tough decision of whether to continue running or not. And I mean, I have a full-time job, I have a family. I'm also still in the Army Reserves. I'm a non-commissioned officer, and I serve in an instructor role for military occupation and skills qualification. So that takes up time. I'm also the first vice commander of the American Legion, which I'm not prepared to give up yet. And I don't know, maybe it's just part of my character or something. I just feel like I have something to add. I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel like I had something to add. And the work right now is not complete that I've started. I want to see the Youth Commission succeed. I want to see our Havre de Grace Parks and Rec youth program succeed. I want to see the infrastructure projects that we've started on all the way through. I want to see the redevelopment of the hospital property through, and I want to see the revitalization of our downtown through. And you know, I mean, I manage $1 billion budget every day for medical facility infrastructure and repair and rehabilitation, as well as community care. So I have a little bit of experience in dealing with specifically the issues that Havre de Grace is facing right now. We're in a period of time that's unlike anything seen in the last 6-7 decades. I mean, not since post-World War II has Havre de Grace seen the type of investment in capital and in our total revitalization of our downtown. So I think it's really important that we have good people. Many of the people here speaking with you care deeply about Havre de Grace and have lots to offer. I'm not detracting from that. I just feel like that I do as well, and that's why I'm asking for you to continue to support me. May 2nd, the Star Center. I look forward to seeing you. Thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Jaffe. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, citizens at home, for paying attention to what's going on in the city. A big shout out to the Patch and to the Aegis for finally coming back with some candidate questions. So look for that to be posted online. I think they've spoken to everybody by now, or they will. And again, just thank you for all that you do, all the volunteers, all the directors, everyone. Thank you.
I want to begin by thanking our hosts and moderators for operating this wonderful forum. It's been pretty flawless, I believe, this evening, and also for all of the candidates that are up here with me speaking. It's a hard thing to do, to put yourself out there and expose yourself, and everyone is doing an admirable job. Just a couple of quick closings. The normal thing I get asked right out of the gate is, what separates you from everyone else? I'm not sure the answer is exactly flattering to me, but it is the truth. So that's what I'm going to go with. And that's the fact that I'm the worst politician on the planet. I would rather have you not vote for me for the right reason than to vote for me for the wrong one. If you ask me a question, I'm going to give you an honest answer, even if that answer is something you don't necessarily want to hear. And as running for a political office, that can be a difficult thing to do, to not walk that tightrope, to try to, paint the corners of the plate and tell you just enough that I don't lose your vote without flat out lying. I'm not very good at that. I'm going to answer you directly. So if you ever do encounter me on the street, in a council meeting, in anything else, throw it at me. I'm going to tell you exactly probably what you don't want to hear, but it's going to be the truth. I can tell you I can make it rain chocolate ice cream, but I know that I can't do that. So I'm not going to tell you that I can. And just in closing, I want to thank my lovely wife, Christy, for tolerating me while I've gone through this journey. I've been a bear to live with. And also my 2 children and my 6 grandchildren that have had to endure this right along with her. May 2nd, you don't have a bad option in this group. I think any choice you make is going to be the right one. I just hope that my name is one of those that you decide is worth putting a vote in for. And with that, thank you all and have a good evening.
Everything I need to know about moving Havre de Grace forward is merely the beginning of what I actually need to know. I learn every day. Havre de Grace is an old city in need of repair and maintenance. Just like us, as we grow older, infrastructure such as water, sewer, curbs, and overgrown trees, especially in our historic district, they need to be tended to. Just the other Saturday during Cat Club, I tripped over the curb on the 400 block of Green Street. That's hazardous. I want to focus on the infrastructure and protecting the citizens and the assets of Havre de Grace. Smart growth is great, but it means not overlooking the existing conditions, but moving forward while strengthening the foundations. I know the trouble areas on both sides of Route 40. Our beloved city is moving in the right direction, and I will focus on how to maintain and sustain it. I've been campaigning for Havre de Grace for about 10 years. I didn't just start 2 months ago. Everything I do in town is about Havre de Grace. I live here as a citizen, and I'm deeply rooted in this community. I helped advocate for the new high school, and I helped advocate for the Opera House. I'm an American Indian, and I champion cultural diversity as well as conserving our planet's finite natural resources. Some citizens ask me, what sets me apart from other candidates? Well, I look at the 4-year plan to gauge what our future holds, As a logistician and an Army leader, I will measure the city growth against today's issues in order to set conditions for the future. I believe in being proactive versus reactive. Candid communication and empathy are my watchwords. I am very experienced in leading and listening at the same time. I'm aware of the issues affecting our citizens. However, I'm also aware that I'm not aware of all the issues. I want to participate in smart growth and top growth for the city that includes large industrial decisions such as our hospital, emergency service, and other important land use and renovation decisions. I am prepared right now to assume duties as your councilman. I'm also available after this forum to take any calls or respond to any email. You can contact me at johnnyboker@gmail.com or 410-652-6258. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm ready to serve. Thank you.
First, I just want to say again, as everyone has said here this evening, thank you, Dave and Brenda, for having this forum for the citizens of Havre de Grace. This has been very informative. It has been appreciated by me to be able to let others hear my voice and know why I'm running for city council. I believe the role of any city council is to provide essential services to the residents of the municipalities. Those services include everything from adequate infrastructure for all our residents, roadways, and effective law enforcement service to provide that public safety, establish city ordinances, providing utilities such as clean water and trash removal, and even maintaining our sewer lines. I can honestly tell you, I learned more about water waste management in the last 2 months than I ever thought I wanted to know. But that's what the job of being a city council person is. It's about learning new things that you may not thought you would need to know and being able to be an effective leader for your community. So one of the roles of the city council that I think is important is listening to the people, the residents, the business owners, and the youth in our city. We want to make the best policies possible to provide the greatest quality of life for all those here in Havre de Grace. So I'm looking to provide you, my residents, my best community service. I want to use my skills and talents to support job creation and business growth and development. So after being a leader in the Army for over 20 plus years, I know I'm capable to serve in any capacity that I'm given. And I know I'm capable of serving as your city council person. I do meet the qualifications for the city council, and I will hope that you will consider and vote for Sharon Jacobs on May the 2nd. Thank you.
So in closing, I will simply say that I am built for this. Politics and community building are in my DNA, literally. My mother was born and raised in Montgomery, Alabama, and I think we all know about its history, and it's truly a great place to learn how to be an advocate. My travels as part of a military family have taught me compassion and acceptance of differences. I bring the representation of the underrepresented. I know how to organize. I have strong strategic planning and project management skills. I'm also a good listener, and I want to hear what the community wants and what they need. I'm known for working collaboratively and for my transparency, honesty, and determination. I could have waited to run, but I thought, why not now? I am what Havre de Grace needs now. I've had experiences outside of this state and outside of this country that would be an asset as we look to grow this city. As a member of the council, I look forward to addressing issues on education, youth engagement, fair housing, business development, and infrastructure. I appreciate your time and your grace this evening, and I'm grateful for the questions from the community. I'm also grateful to Brenda and David Jaffe. I appreciate learning more about my colleagues in this forum, and I thank you, Havre de Grace, and I hope that I've earned your vote.
Thank you, candidates. Just one brief point of clarification for the record. Dave Martin, there were questions about Lily Run, but there were too many other important things for us to do at this time. But shout out to Dave Mershon for reminding us that that's important. Please, everybody, let your friends and neighbors know that this for their viewing on the city website and the city YouTube page. The easiest way is to go to the city webpage or Google Havre de Grace YouTube, and you can find it. And please, everybody, don't forget to vote Tuesday, May 2nd. Thanks once again, everybody. Have a pleasant evening.